we've got the midweek game in the Carabao Cup. Thoughts for that?
You don't even know we're playing, do you?
I was hoping that you'd lead straight directly into that. I
was waiting for you to say it, and I was like, I bet he doesn't know.
Let's go. I can't even search it. I was going. So, Jamie, what are your thoughts on the game for this week?
You mean the game against Barnsley?
I was about to say that. Thanks for picking that one up. Evening, Chelsea fans. Welcome back to another week of Chelsea Chat with me, Moose, and JB. Chelsea fans, don't you forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification, and obviously comment below so we can hear all of your great comments to bring into the show. Obviously, this week we're going to give a bit of a review of the Liverpool game straight after watching this, our live reaction on that, and then going to look forward to Transfer Tracker and some of the other games that we've got coming up with the Carabao Cup and the West Brom game next weekend. So let's dive straight into it, Jamie. Me and you have watched the absolute atrocious game. I think it was negative. I think that's how I'm going to call it. A very negative performance by the Blues today. I think we both called it from the start. I didn't really like the squad that you put out, and it showed. We just didn't really have anything going forward. We were quite negative just in the middle of the park, and then we had the idiot between the sticks in Kepa. So I don't know where you want to start. Maybe we start with the squad selection, because I think if we're going to put any blame today, there's two people, Kepa being one, and we could have called that before the game. And then I think it's Frank. I think Frank had a bit of a mare today, didn't line up as he should have, and I think sort of just came out with a bit of a negative attitude as to how he could line up against the current champions. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it wasn't great, was it? As you said, like we had that first 10 minutes watching it, and I just thought we've got nothing. We don't look like we want to score a goal. Obviously, Werner was pushing and he looked positive, and Havertz as well to some extent was trying to push up forward and get involved, but there just seemed a big disconnect between our attack and our midfield whenever we did get forward. I think that was caused by the game plan, which looked to be just don't concede, we'll be happy with a 0-0. And so we had that three in midfield, Kante, Kovacic, Jorginho, which I literally said to you before the game, that is always such a defensive midfield three, and it never works. And same thing happened. It was just... They're very defensive players. I mean, Kovacic is good because, he can beat the press, he can run with the ball and drive forward. Always good to have in there. But when you have the three of them together, it just doesn't work for me.
They just slow down the game too much in the middle.
Yeah.
Like, there's no creativity, there's no speed on the ball. They're just trying to sort of pass sideways or just look for the sort of the simple option, which is brilliant, but you can't have all three in the pitch. We learned it so often last season, and it was frustrating to see it happen again because, and we've spoken around this just before we'll come on to the podcast. In my eyes, I would have rather had another defender rather than playing that negative in the middle. I would rather have had Kovacic and Kante in the middle and have played Dave in the back five, because at least that would have given us the opportunity to utilise Reece James and Alonso on the wings. Because we didn't have too much going forward, and defensively we knew what we were going to come up against. We knew that their threats were going to be difficult, and they hounded us, and that shows by sort of the stats. Obviously, 38% possession. To have a front-loaded midfield of that, you'd have expected to have held the ball for more, and we didn't. No outlets, sort of the shots on target were atrocious, and I think sort of there's going to be, as Chelsea fans, there's going to be a lot of focus on our signings. So there's going to be a lot of focus as to why hasn't Havertz, why hasn't Werner scored, and I don't think there's anything there to say that it's their fault. I think we are definitely missing Ziyech, we're definitely missing Pulisic, because the creative outlets and the wings we saw in July having someone fast, speedy on the wings absolutely runs Liverpool off the park. And we had no outlet like that today. We literally just had sort of Werner and Havertz sort of floating to try and catch the scraps that were coming through. And obviously then we let ourselves down defensively. And let's talk around that, because I think both issues could be related back to Kepa. So the first goal just before half-time, Kepa comes chasing out unnecessarily. I don't know why he's run sort of 30, 40 yards to try and catch that ball. And there's only really one option Christensen can take, because Mane is going to reach that ball and walk around Kepa easy. And Kepa's either going to take the ball out and get a red card himself, or let the goal go. And it's just sort of poor decision making. It's sort of
I think you're right. Christensen didn't really have much of a choice in terms of the way the game was as well, because we were playing so defensively and Liverpool such in control of the game. If they'd taken the lead and gone 1-0 up, that would have been almost as bad as being a man down anyway, to be honest, because we were set up in a certain way that we just couldn't allow them to have a bit of possession and then us to get the ball back. It just wasn't working. And, if they go 1-0 up, then that whole game plan of sitting back and just letting them attack us, well, you're already losing. So we would then have to try and progress forward a bit more and then leave ourselves more exposed at the back. It was just a terrible moment, really. No matter what happened, it would have been bad for us. So I think, his decision was bad in terms of we were a man down then for the rest of the game. But I think the alternative was to go 1-0 down, and it wasn't going to help us really. Anyway, we might have finished the game losing 1-0. It doesn't really make a difference 2-0 or 1-0. But at least at 0-0, going into half time, you give yourself a chance. Unfortunately, they got their goals in the second half, but I think it wouldn't have made much of a difference either way. I think the second that situation was there, I think we'd lost the game. I think that, as I said, they were controlling the game anyway. They were the better team in the first half, so I'm not taking it away from them. But that was the moment when we kind of knew. As soon as that red card came out, I was like, okay, that's game over.
Yeah, you can't soak up that much pressure and hit them on the break. We're having to, sort of after half time, having to bring on Tamori for Havertz. So Havertz once again didn't get the whole game to go and show what he's made of. I know he's still having that slow start, but like we go with Pulisic last season, he just needs a bit of time to adapt. And although he's got a big price tag, you've got to give him a bit of time to fit into his role, work out where his position is. And I don't think we've found that yet. I think sort of we had some good performances from Werner. He looks hungry, which is the only thing I can ask for most players. I think it'll come with time once we find the right sort of players around him to sort of feed that. The first goal,
Alonso got a little bit twisted up, I think, as you can't really expect more. We know what he is. We know what he's going to do. And, he's not a great defender. So he got beaten. The ball comes into the middle, and Reece James just got beaten by Mane. It's a difficult one because the Liverpool wingers, they're very good at running across you to get to the ball, and Mane did a brilliant job. It was great from him. Kepa couldn't really have done much about that one, but it was just, I think, quality from Mane. And that kind of caused us, if we hadn't already lost at that point, then the second that goal went in, then it was definitely game over. There was no way we were coming back, I think.
Yeah, and then 4 minutes later, a simplistic pass back to Kepa, and he couldn't even clear his lines. It's getting embarrassing now, and I know we've gone on. Well, it shows the point that since we started this podcast, a common theme pretty much throughout every episode we've had has been Kepa and his performances, and today just showed it again and again and again. Just how he's not good enough to stand and wear the Chelsea jersey. It's fundamentally as sort of, as much as we go, we can try him out, we can test him out, we need to go and have someone to compete him. I think we need to have a goalkeeper that he competes for it rather than the other way around, because he's confident.
I think he is good enough. I think in there somewhere he's got ability, but I think his confidence is so shot, and I think if his problem is he's not got that physicality that you need in the Premier League. And I think if he can build up a little bit of strength, if he can get a bit of confidence, then he could be successful. If he can come out and start claiming crosses, I saw him do it in the first half, and I thought, oh, that's good. He doesn't usually do that, so that was positive. And then he goes and has a massive mistake like that. It's just he's all over the place at the moment. I think really he needs a bit of time away, but I don't think that's going to happen because of the money he's on. I don't think anyone wants to take that massive, wage bill on, or even half of it. So I think he'll have to stay. But yeah, I wouldn't have him in playing any games. He'd be my Carabao Cup keeper, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and we were talking around this just before the podcast started. The big issue for Kepa is sort of with the current price tag he's on. When he first joined Chelsea, he came with a level of confidence that was probably overconfident, and we'll go back to sort of the FA Cup game where he refused to come off for Sarri. That sort of arrogance to sort of wink to the camera. It was almost the start of his own downfall. Firstly, you've lost your own fans and you've lost sort of the Premier League sort of fans in that space. And therefore, microscope's always going to be put on you. Like, if you've got that much arrogance, you've got to live up to that. You had other players in less critical roles exist sort of with that level of arrogance. Di Canio, all those sorts of players have got that arrogance, but were able to show why they could have that level of arrogance, and he's not shown that. One mistake, and the microscope is on in in the Premier League. So we'll see. I mean, I think Mendy can't come quick enough. I think he's going to have to start Willy Calabero. I mean, the challenge started is in the last 10 minutes, you saw Trent, you saw Thiago, you saw a number of players 30, 25 yards out taking pot shots because they just want trying to see if they can catch him off guard and get their third. And that doesn't improve the confidence of anyone around us because anyone knows they can come and score with us. I'd rather have Willy Calabero, put some big defence around it and just play so we play confidently. In my eyes.
Obviously the whole, we feel very downbeat about the game and obviously about the goalkeeping situation and the defending, but we have to remember as well, we've out of all of the new signings that we've made, if we include the goalkeeper as well, we've only had 2 of them that have actually been able to play a game so far this season. So, we're pretty much just playing with a mishmash of these 2 new quality signings that we have with a bang average squad that we had from last season, which we did wonders with to manage to get to 4th place. So, when you see Mendy come in, when you see Chilwell come in, when you see Thiago Silva come in, when you see Pulisic come in, when you see Ziyech come in, alongside all the other players that we have that are good enough to start, and alongside these other 2 new signings, that team is going to be fantastic. And we just came up against Liverpool at the wrong time when we haven't had those players back. We could still well have lost, but we would have given them a hell of a better game if we had all of those players in place ready for the game. I think the game at Anfield, whenever that may be, I can't remember the fixture off the top of my head, but when that comes along, that's going to be a very different game. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how all of these pieces fit into that jigsaw. So whilst we have that negative feeling at the moment because we lost the game, obviously it's always disappointing. I think there's still a lot to be optimistic about as a Chelsea fan.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think sort of plenty to be confident about. I think it's just sort of frustrating in the players he's picked and equally the performances they provided. I mean, to be fair, I think now Liverpool have brought in a few signings and they've been pretty good signings, to be fair. Thiago coming on, I think he had the most successful passes for a player who's played just 45 minutes after. Yeah. So they've brought in quality to extend quality. We were always going to struggle. We knew we were going to struggle after the last couple of games when they won the league at Anfield. So Liverpool is always going to be a challenge. I think we've got West Brom next, and I think in the Premier League, and I think Lampard just needs to come out and try and get as many goals as possible just to build everyone's confidence before they go away on international break. So we'll see. But some great performances, some absolutely atrocious performances. I think we'll just put this one behind us and work towards the next one. I think if we move towards, obviously, let's look at the transfer tracker. I think sort of, if I'm going to think around this at the moment, Mendy is on the cards. According to many sources, the deal is possibly already done. I think Ren have put in a number of hopeful claims. We were talking about this before. This has been sort of Football Manager-esque sort of negotiation tactics from them, asking for Giroud and asking for two players, Tamori and another one on loan. I don't think we're going to play into those. I think we'll look for a straight cash deal. And I think they'll probably force our hand into paying more upfront, and or potential more bonuses, etc. Because it's sort of forced our hand. We need a Mendy. We need someone between the sticks that we're confident about.
We need someone between the sticks, full stop, not just a ghost. Because I feel like we've got Casper in there at the moment. But no, it sounds actually like the Mendy deal was done. From what I've been reading today, it looks like it's about 22, 23 million, somewhere along those lines. All that we're waiting for is him to fly to London to have a medical. I think he was in London recently, expecting it to have been agreed, but there was a few hiccups. So he had to fly back. But no, all we need now is for him to come back, do a medical, sign the paper, and just waiting the announcement. So by next week, he should be in place. I think, I can't see Kepa playing for us for quite a long time now. Caballero would definitely be playing the Carabao Cup. Lampard's already confirmed that after the game today. But I think, even doesn't matter how long Mendy has to train, I think he has to play next week. If it's not him, it'll be Caballero. Kepa just definitely can't play. But no, so Mendy looks like he's done, which is good news.
I don't think we're going to see any more coming in, if I'm going to be honest. I can't.
It still looks like we're trying to, or we're going to go in and try and get Rice. Apparently that's kind of the last one that we're going to look to. Very unlikely. It looks like they're probably going to want somewhere around the region of £70 million, which is obviously a very high amount of money. We could potentially do it if we manage to get some good money for some outgoings, but it also depends on who that is to go out and how much we can get. If we can get rid of a Jorginho for somewhere in the region of 40 million or something like that, then Rice could be on, but there isn't really any suitors out there for Jorginho at the moment. We need to probably get rid of a Jorginho and a Barkley. Bakayoko's still not been completed yet to go out. Emerson's still on the books, so everything would have to come together perfectly for us to be able to go and get Rice. But even if we do, match their bid, it's not guaranteed that they will agree. So it's very unlikely, but there's a possibility that Rice might be our final incoming this season. But I wouldn't count on it.
And I think, as you said, I think there's more likelihood of other players going out the door. So as you said, Bakayoko, I think potentially you'll see Tamori go out on loan in the Premier League. There's talks that might go to Everton, and that could be a very exciting prospect. I think you get some good game time there.
Absolutely.
Another one that's interesting, I mean, I'm going to go back to a point that we had last week with the Brighton game. Tarek Lamptey had an absolute outstanding game for Brighton again today.
Yep.
There's no buyback.
He won the penalty, didn't he?
No buyback clause, unfortunate. But
the problem is, he's a right back, and we've got Reece James and we've got Cesar Azpilicueta, and he wasn't going to get into the team. He does look bloody good though, doesn't he? He looks very good. So it's hard. It's a hard one to swallow.
I mean, it's one of those ones where, as you say, Reece James put in the hours. He's played an absolute astounding season for us. I think sort of Lamberty himself probably went, I've got to go and find game time elsewhere. And I don't think he's one of those players. He wants to go and do a loan deal just to sort of see what happens. Yeah. So fair play to him there, but it is sort of always frustrating to see talent leave Chelsea and obviously succeed. We've probably got a long list of good talent that's not returned to us. But interesting to see what goes on for the remainder of the Premier League. So looking forward to next week, we've got the midweek game in the Carabao Cup. Thoughts for that?
You don't even know we're playing, do you?
I was hoping that you'd lead straight directly into that. I was going,
I was waiting for you to say it, and I was like, I bet he doesn't know.
I can't even search it. I was going. So, Jamie, what are your thoughts on the game for this week?
You mean the game against Barnsley?
I was about to say that. Thanks for picking that one up.
Yeah, we've got Barnsley on Wednesday in the Carabao Cup. I think I'm looking forward to that in terms of seeing some potentially, like Hudson-Odoi getting a run out, which he desperately needs. I think Ruben will get some minutes because he desperately needs a bit more time on the pitch. I'd like to see potentially Thiago Silva come in for at least maybe like 45 minutes or something like that, just to get some of that match fitness going as well, almost like a pre-season game. I know we shouldn't take any opponents too lightly, but it's not like he's lacking quality. So it'd be good for him to get some game time as well, and then hopefully he'll be able to come into the Premier League, if not at the weekend, then after the international break. So it'd be a good opportunity. Hopefully maybe some youngsters as well. We've still got some youngsters in our academy that are trying to push through. So it'd be nice to see some of those get some game time as well. So I think it'd be an entertaining game to watch. I don't really know much about Barnsley or the way they play, but it's one of those, isn't it? Last season we played Grimsby in this round, the Carabao Cup, and beat them. I think what was it, 8-1 or something. So it's Barnsley are a championship team, I believe. So they'll be a bit more tough than Grimsby, but we should dispatch them fairly comfortably, even with a second team out.
It's interesting you say that. Obviously, they beat Nottingham Forest 1-0 in the last round of the Carabao Cup. Some great form they've had over the last couple of weeks. I know a lot about Barnsley. Obviously, I know that they're playing us this week.
Jamie, keep talking so I can keep Googling.
It's interesting though, because we talked around this a while back, but it's interesting why he's not picking Hudson-Odoi, because I think he'll get the run out in the Carabao Cup. Just frustrating because I think today we could have used a turn of pace, and there's obviously a reason why he's not picking him. Whether it's the big name signings that are just getting ahead of him on the sheet, or there's something else going on in the background. I just think today would have been a great example just to sort of see him run out, see how he can compete against the big boys. But I think we'll see him sort of bring in a number of youngsters in that space. And I think Ruben, some unfair press, especially from Gary Neville after the last game. I think Ruben's got a lot to offer, and having two games back, and he's being played out of position. I think that's unfair to sort of say he needs to be sold because he's not offering the right thing. I think Ruben has got an incredible amount of. I remember the game we went to go and watch with him in sort of the season before last. Was it now?
Yeah.
Absolute powerhouse. I think he has got the potential to be sort of a reincarnation of Yaya Toure in that space.
He just needs to keep fit, doesn't he? That's the issue. It's those injuries which have just held him back. And if he didn't get that injury, he would have been a superstar for us last season. And coming into this season, it would have been tough to keep him out of the team. So I think it's very unfortunate. I hope he can get back to his best form. I think this is probably his final season chance. If he can't get himself into the team this year, I think he probably will make his way somewhere else and find another home. But I'd be very disappointed if it doesn't happen. He's got, as you said, he's got so much to offer us. It's just getting that out of him whilst he can get those minutes on the pitch. And at the moment, he just needs to get that match sharpness back. He might be fit, but he's just not match sharp. So hopefully he can get that back a little bit with a bit of minutes.
And I think if you look at this in realistic terms, he only came back into our squad just at the end of lockdown. And then was played in a winger position. So I think he'll give him time. And I think Frank probably sees it in him. I'm just getting a little bit frustrated with the media sort of hounding a player that's just come back from a long-term injury, expecting him to sort of revive his sort of the feats that he's done at the beginning. So I think he'll get some game time. I think he'll probably get some more game times in the cup games just to sort of build up that confidence. The issue is he's also his best position is also probably our most heavily contested. You've got the likes of sort of Ross Barkley, Mason Mount, Billy Gilmore, Kovacic, Jorginho, Kante, all playing that central role, which I think is his best. It just depends if we'll see any exits in that space that free up some of those games, but I would much rather him over a number of our ageing players, probably like Barkley and Jorginho. I'd have him any day of the week in that space. So hopefully we'll get there. And then we've obviously got to look forward to, I know we're going to have probably a catch-up podcast prior to the West Brom game. But I think sort of interesting game ahead. I think hopefully it should be high scoring. We'd love to sort of hear your predictions for next week, and would love to sort of like, subscribe and hit the notification bell right here. We look forward to catching up with you guys next week. You stay classy, Chelsea fans.